We've really built this release on three core themes: velocity, balance, and confidence. And that's all really wrapped around open source. It's how do we help bring the value of open source to developers and organizations. There's a lot of promise of open source. There's a lot of value to be had, and this version of JBuilder is really designed to start bringing that value into your organization, help you become successful with open source. To really understand kind of where that this is really a very big shift for JBuilder and for our customers, we really need to look at the Java market waves. So when we started with JBuilder, in version 1 of JBuilder, which is really the first Java market wave, and we're identifying three key Java market waves. This first Java market wave was really about cross-platform GUI. Remember Latte and the original Bean spec, and I think in the original Borland was actually involved in the original Baja spec, etc. The first JBuilder product was built on the Delphi platform, and it was really about RAD for cross-platform GUI, and became successful in helping developers build cross-platform applications for that market wave. But what really helped both the Java take off in the enterprise, and what really created this economic wave and value was the advent of the application server. And the application server, what created that economy in this wave, this market wave, was the shift from mini and mainframe hardware down to PC hardware. And the application server was a piece of software that allowed organizations to downsize their hardware and go on to more cost-effective hardware platforms. And the app server was that vehicle. What JBuilder's role in that is JBuilder was the tool that helped organizations become successful in doing that downsizing, in capturing that economic benefit. JBuilder did it better than anyone else. It supported all of the application servers out there without any kind of platform bias or platform agenda, and it became the #1 Java development tool in that manner. Now, since 2001, the application servers are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. Everybody's captured that value. We're all now running on PC hardware. There's a new economic wave happening in enterprise development and Java development. And that economic wave is based around open source. And we've seen this happening over the last 3 or 4 years, where open source has started to happen in our frameworks, our tools, in Eclipse. And what we're now seeing is an economic shift towards moving away from expensive servers, expensive tools, and starting to embrace the open source world. We now have application servers in open source that are viable and we can run our businesses on. We have lifecycle tools that we can leverage that are first-class lifecycle tools. There's lots of new frameworks now. In the past, we would have gotten everything from a single vendor, or it had to be a JSR. Now we can embrace a wide variety of different open source frameworks to achieve enterprise tasks and Java tasks. So this is the market wave that's happening, and this is what we've really tuned JBuilder for in 2007 to address. So in the last 2 years, what we did was we really went out and we talked to hundreds of JBuilder developers and hundreds of open source and Eclipse users about this adoption. What are the things that they're facing as they're adopting open source and they're adopting the Eclipse platform in their organizations? And before we kind of get into the detail, let's use pictures to kind of visualize for a minute what we found. And what we found was that every organization and every development team has a vision of their success and what they want, how they want their team to work, and how then to look like. And then there's a reality, right? So what they want and what the reality is. And so when we look at the teams themselves, we want our teams to work like an orchestra or a jazz team. Right? We want them to be in concert. We want them to be working together as a team. We want them to be orchestrated, right? But when we find that an organization has done a heavy adoption of open source, very often we find that there's a lot of chaos there, right? It's not in concert. That that everybody's. It's more like like a punk rock concert, and I'm I think half everyone in here loves punk, but we don't want our teams we don't want our teams to be out of control, and that chaos is what that doesn't help us get our jobs done. It doesn't help us be successful with our projects, right? The other vision that we saw, that we heard from, that we saw, is when companies and teams think about Eclipse and the open source world and plugins, they have a vision in their mind of this very clean plugin environment where all of these different components just slide in, and they slide in cleanly, and they really work together. And what we found when we talked to organizations who've adopted Eclipse and adopted a lot of these open source projects is really they describe it more as a tangled mess. That yes, they all plug in, but they're not designed to work together. They often break the environment. They spend a lot of time configuring and trying to wire the environment up and get it to work. So while there's a lot of plugins available, it's not clean and it's not designed. They're not designed to work together. But that's the vision that we have and what we want. We also want our teams working together fast. Right, we want them coordinated, and we want our teams to have high velocity, which is an agile term that we use a lot, that we'll be using a lot now. But what we find, and I just had to find some way to get the EDS herding cats commercial into my presentation. But really, what we find though is that's really across an organization, that's what how a lot of teams describe their organization. The vision for organizations is we want our teams, working at a high velocity together, but they're not realizing that, right? Especially when we talk about open source stacks and open source tools that are not designed to work together. And then we also have an individual vision. We want our developers to be the fastest developers out there. We want them to be in the lead of the pack and to be developing individually at a high velocity. And often they describe themselves as stuck in the road. That there's so many things going on, that they have so many tasks to configure and complexity in the environment that they cannot be high velocity. That they are slow. That there's a lot of things slowing them down.